Hey everyone, welcome to another introduction interview, this time with Eric Krull. The goal of these videos is to just kind of introduce you to their backgrounds, get more of a sense of their style, and learn more about your teachers before we actually go ahead and start the live webinars. So thanks so much for joining us. Eric, great to have you, and welcome.
Thanks, Richard. Happy to be here and looking forward to not only the webinar, but also the question and answer sessions with all the people who take this webinar. So looking
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, me too. And to kick things off, I'd love to just kind of get a sense of your background. So would you mind kind of going through how you first got interested in the markets and also interested in trading as well?
My first interest was way back in like eighth grade, 13 years old, had to do a term paper. I chose the stock market and studied the stock market for a term paper in eighth grade. And then really that kind of like planted the seed, but that didn't really start growing until when I went to college and started studying it for my MBA and took some investment classes and just started to realize how much I didn't know. Went to the University of Chicago, learned all about buy and hold. And when I tried some of those techniques when I was still in college and got my MBA, realized that didn't work very well. And then went on from there reading books and studying on my own.
Yeah, perfect. And were there any kind of key turning points in your kind of trading journey? Obviously, at some point you switched from more buy and hold to the can slim system. So I'd love to hear more about how that came to be.
Frankly, it was the market bear market of 2000.
Hmm.
That was a key turning point, and I had been investing at that point just in a few individual stocks, but mostly the overall market. And when I started to see it going down and continue to go down and continue to go down, it's like, well, this buy and hold is not for me.
Yeah.
And I dusted off a copy of How to Make Money in Stocks that I had previously purchased, but not really read. And that's how I got interested in the cancel and way of investing. And another key turning point was um, I went to a seminar in New York with the Investor Business Daily. I think it was their level 2 seminar,
Hmm.
and that really got me interested and excited. And it was full blast after that.
Yeah, awesome. And looking back on kind of your trades, are there any that kind of really stand out and maybe had a significant impact on how you went ahead and traded going forward? Maybe, there's a time where, you sat through an earnings report, it gapped down, you made a rule change. Were there any kind of significant trades like that, or one that you did incredibly well on and you're like, I have to go ahead and kind of try to replicate this style, this type of entry point?
I would say the two that stand out, I don't even remember the symbol of one of them, but I wasn't prepared in my way that I am now. Is that I didn't know when the earnings announcement was coming for a stock that I owned. And I was watching my portfolio and after hours, and all of a sudden I saw the numbers start going down and going down fast. And I frantically looked like, what's going on? And I see one of the stocks I owned was going down. And I was like, I didn't know the earnings were announced today. How could I miss that?
Yeah.
And that burned a lesson into my portfolio and never into my mind that I never ever missed an earnings announcement again. So that was one of them. And then another one, I think it was one of the stocks that I first bought using Can Slim. And at the time, it was SYSS. It was I think they're still around. I think they're a 3D printing company,
Yeah.
and I bought it, and it doubled very quickly. And I got out. I was like, "Oh, this is great." Only to see it keep going and going and going, and it was like, "Oh, I think I should have held that one." So that was the a stock that I did well in, but it could have done a lot better had I not, sold it so quickly.
Yeah, perfect. And how would you kind of describe your personal trading style and also your time frame? Because obviously we've got Kathy, who I talked to previously, who's more of a longer term focus. But I'd love to hear
Mhm.
kind of your perspective as well. What's kind of your general time frame? How long do you like to try to hold winning stocks? And yeah, what's your kind of overall style?
My goal is to hold them for months. I'm like Kathy. I try to hold them for a long time. Unlike Kathy, once I started my hedge fund, I learned I better start to manage the drawdowns better because sometimes holding for the long term is the most profitable, but also has the biggest drawdowns.
Right.
And so I started to adjust by hedging and also by selling stocks more as I started to saw initial weakness or selling into strength sometimes. So my goal is to hold for months. That doesn't happen as often, like in a bad year, like in 2022. And I also try to always limit my losses 3 to 5%. So you can get a lot of trades in a bad year that are 3 to 5% losses quickly, and the idea of holding for months then is just ridiculous.
Yeah, there has to be a trend that lasts months
Yeah,
in order to make that happen. Perfect.
right.
And I'd love to hear kind of what made you decide to research IPOs and learn more about what makes a super growth stock, and also kind of your perspective of the background and story behind the life cycle trade study, which ultimately turned into this book and now this masterclass.
Um, it was frankly not having much success in trading IPOs. Uh, Two trades in particular stand out. One was when I bought Baidu on day one of the IPO, and I had myself in a somewhat large position for me. And I had written down on a piece of paper the night before, like if it gets to a certain dollar amount, that would have doubled my money, and that was going to be the out. I bought the stock just minutes after the stock started trading, and I bought my position, and I think it was up for all of like 10 seconds. And then within a minute, I had lost so much money in dollar terms that I just almost froze, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm watching the stock move and tick. And it was such a terrible experience that I put a stop signal on it where if it got back to break even and plus a little bit, I was going to get out.
Hmm.
And I went out and as I told my friends, I went out for a run, and because I just couldn't take it. And one of my friends said, "But you didn't have a stop on the downside, did you?" I was like, "No, I didn't. I didn't think about that. I was so rattled." And I went for a run, and I came back, and the stock had sold, and I had made a small profit. Only then to see the stock continue to go up, and by the end of the day, the stock had more than doubled. And that little post-it note that I had the number on, which was my stop signal, would have been hit. And I think at the time, I remember telling my friends I was interested in buying a brand new Lexus, that trade could have been a brand new Lexus ES 300, but it turned out to be a very small gain. So that trade said, gee, I don't really know how to trade IPOs, do I? And then another trade, it was Google. I
Hmm.
completely missed buying early on Google. When I say early, I mean within the first few weeks. And I didn't buy until it had already more than doubled. And did I make money in Google? Yes. Could I have made more money? A lot more. So really those two trades, and then mixed success on other IPOs made me very interested in wanting to study them. And talking with my friends, Eve and Kathy, we got together for a lunch, and we were talking about how we all wanted to get better at trading IPOs. So we decided, well, why don't we do a study?
Hmm.
And we kicked it off. And then a few months later, Kurt joined the group, and all four of us then just dug in for, as it turned out, a couple of years to study IPOs.
Yeah, perfect. And outside of how to make money in stocks and O'Neill as well, are there any kind of key books, mentors, or resources that have had a really large impact on how you trade and how you kind of interpret the market?
I would say there's a few. The Reminiscence of a Stocker Operator was a key influence. Nicholas Darvis's book, How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market, was a big influence. Um, Besides Bill O'Neill, I would say Dan Zanger had an influence on me. I was subscribing to his newsletter. And then a couple options traders, Dan Sheridan, Dan Keegan, and a few others had some big influence. And those are the main influences. I mean, I've read a lot of other books, but the ones I mentioned, stand out the most. Mhm.
Yep, perfect. And for this IPO masterclass, I'd love to hear kind of what you're most looking forward to passing on to the students, or sharing lesson wise with everybody.
I'm most interested in hearing their questions and helping them. We found through after publishing the book is we get for Twitter or Facebook or questions directly to the author's page. We get all kinds of questions that I'm sometimes surprised by how well they know the material, because they really, you can tell they've dug in deeply
Hmm.
for the level of detail of the questions they ask. So I'm looking forward to the questions and answers. But the main things I want to get across are be very patient with IPOs. You're going to have plenty of time. There's very few that do well. There's no reason to rush. Don't do my Baidu trade where you end up having to go for a run because you're so nervous and messed up so badly that you have to get away from the computer. And just really study IPOs and learn how they act, so that you don't have to go through all the years of frustration that I did and Kathy and Eve and Kurt did, where we didn't really know how to trade IPOs. We thought they acted like regular old stocks,
Hmm.
and we tried to treat them like that, and it just wasn't true. So it'd be like boost someone else up. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Learn the materials from the book and save yourself a lot of frustration.
Yeah, great. And do you have any kind of advice for students taking this class to kind of help them get the most out of the overall experience?
I would say if they don't have the book already, purchase it. Look at the workbook materials, and then pull up on whatever your favorite charting software is and put it on weekly charts, and just pull up hundreds of charts of IPOs of the last 2, 3 years. Go back to 2020. If you have a way to sort, find stocks that IPO'd since 2020 and just go through the charts one by one. It'll take a little time at first, but then you can go quickly and try to look through the lens of somebody who's knows the material of the book, and try to find patterns, try to see what looks common, what seems to happen, what looks unusual. Make notes on the charts that look unusual, maybe print those out, and then have those ready for questions. But I would just look at hundreds of charts and look at some of the things in the book, the main concepts, and see, does this make sense? Do the concepts of the book show up in the charts? And if not, write down your questions.
Perfect. Yeah, to echo that, I'd say definitely have your questions ready. At the very end, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session, as well as at the end of each live webinar, we'll have space for questions. So definitely have those ready. And until then, yeah, have a great time, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the live webinars. Take care.